Hi, in this video I'll tell you how much it will cost to service a French car, specifically a Peugeot 308 in the T9 body style, 2015 model year, a station wagon with a 1.6 turbocharged diesel engine, and some information about the 1.5 engine, the cost of spare parts, the range available, whether they are in stock or if you need to wait and order something for half a month. I'll tell you all about this today. Also, this video includes many numbers for consumables, especially filters, pads and all that. This video isn't the shortest, but it is useful and informative for general knowledge. Firstly, all the prices mentioned in this video aren't made up. These are prices from a fairly well-known chain of auto parts stores. I'm not claiming that the prices here are the lowest or the range is the widest. Therefore, if you know where the prices are lower and there are more spare parts, don't hesitate. Comments are not prohibited. I selected this network as it has a wide presence across Belarus and can be found in nearly every city. Additionally, I'm aware this channel is viewed not only by people in Belarus, but also from many other post-Soviet countries. So along with prices in Belarusian rubles, I'll also quote them in US dollars to make it easier for you to keep up. Alright, let's get started. I'll start with the suspension. Specifically, the rear brake disc that will cost 350 rubles for the original part, or approximately $122, and the original Bosch TRV is 109 rubles. This will be around $40, 250 rubles, 88 US dollars. Euro Repar, 200 rubles, or $70. I'll go into a little more detail about this brand. Before I started to explore the structure of the Peugeot 308, I hadn't even heard of this company. However, Peugeot is the manufacturer of a vast number of parts. Along with original parts, this brand specifies Euro Repar. If you aren't aware, then in the original box, for example, with an oil filter from Peugeot, there lies a small one, so you think, right, male? In fuel, for example, there may be Perflux, and so on. What am I getting at? In this very Euro Repar, probably, the same renowned brands will also lie. It just seems to me that the manufacturer himself, I'm talking about Peugeot now, will indicate some nonsense with original parts via a comma. I want to believe that. The quality of this very Euro Repar, or whatever, does not lie inside, is worthy. Those who have experience using it, or if someone has encountered, feel free to comment. So, summing up rear brake discs, prices range from $30 for LPR to $150 for Feroda. The range is quite extensive. Let's move on. Brake pads. The price for a pair is that same Euro Repar, 80 rubles or $28, TRV 110 is $39 Remza, 72 rubles. By the way, I installed it myself. So, I've been traveling for roughly 2 years. About 25,000 kilometers. The flight is the usual, no complaints. Interestingly, in April 2021, the pads were priced at $18. Now it's $25. Moving on to the pads, Feroda 175 is $62, 8 is 150 rubles. $52, the cheapest is $15. That's Japan Group. Overall, the assortment is large, the selection is huge. The prices range from $15 for Japan Group to $70 for Delphi. Well, let's wrap up the topic of the rear suspension. Let's put it this way. Some people had bad luck. Well, that is, they bought a car with a mileage of 120 and it turned out to be 240 or something like that. Okay, this is what it is for. The rear hub comes assembled with a bearing with an ABS sensor. The original cost 390 rubles. That's $137. Not for a pair. This is all for one piece. BSG is 200 rubles. $70. SNR 350 is $123. FAG 530 is $186. The cartridge is 370 rubles. $130 and NTU is 150 rubles or $53 in total. There is a choice about the order of prices from 53 to 186 US dollars. By the way, the prices on Bodotail are approximately 140 Belarusian rubles, though you can find cheaper ones. And yes, once again, I perfectly understand that the hub is not an item that is consumed, just to clarify for comprehension and general development. Let's move on to the front suspension. Brake disc original. 221 rubles. LP 109 rubles. $38. Bosch 150 rubles. $52. TRV 250 rubles or $88. Bremba 296 rubles. $104. 8 350 rubles. $122. Meili 182 rubles. $64. Well, in conclusion, there are many options. There are no issues here. The prices range from $33 to $122. Front brake pads. Again, the assortment is very broad. TV, 134 rubs per set. That's $47. Remsa, 120. That's $42. Bosch, 140 rubs, $50. Stellax, 37 Belarusian rubles or $13. $38 for Euro Repar, 110 rubles. Bremba, 213 rub $75 in total for the front pads. The choice is huge. The spread of prices is even greater. Stellax is the cheapest for $13, for example. ATE $115 and even higher, for every taste and color. Then the ball joint. Lemforder 106 rubs, $37. Sazik 27, that's $10. RTS 52 rubles, $18. 75, $26. Delphi 86, that's $30 mile, 82 rubles, $29. And Cortega 172 rub, that's $60, lifting the summary. Ball joint, prices from $10 to $60. At this, of course, $60, they stand out a bit from this list. I would say the average price is $25. The silent block of the front lever, specifically this one, there is no original, it comes as a single piece with a lever. What? Replacements for CDOM cost 33 rubles, which equals $12. Kasich is $15.6. As for Lemforder, Hutchinson, Phoebe, Mile, they all cost around 30 or 40 Belarusian rubles, which is $12 or $13. In some places, you can find something like a cartridge for $15, strangely more expensive than even Hutchinson. And then there's Delphi, which swaps for $21. The selection is decent, and the prices are quite fair. Moving on, we have another cylindrical front suspension unit. I have to say right away that it fails earlier than the previous one. Most likely, it simply bears slightly more load, but that's not the point. The prices are fairly democratic. Sidom for 16 rubles or would be $6, Hutchinson for 32 rubles or $12, Phoebe for 30 rubles equals $11. Strangely, the cartridge is again expensive for 38 Belarusian rubles or $14. Lemforder costs 63 rubles or $22. Stellax is 15 rubles, that's $6. May or Ike cost 56 rubles or $20. The conclusion remains the same. Prices are reasonable. For instance, one of the cheapest Sidoms cost only $6. I installed one myself 2 years ago. Its mileage, to reiterate, is around 25,000. So far, everything's fine with it. We will observe whether it makes sense to overpay for Lemforder, exactly $22. Well, I am not sure, but it's your decision. Stabilizer rod, original, price tag is there, but so far, it is not given. So let's move on. Tex, or how we like to call it in Texas stores, an STC 20 rubles is $7. Technorod and Sizik 25 rubles $9, from 31 rubles $11. Fjorda 59 rubles $21, RTS and Azmetal 30 to 32 rubles, this is about $11. I will not be unfounded, but I have found information on the internet that Azmetal seems to fare well, but I will not assert it. You have seen the order of prices. The front spring, they break unfortunately, an extremely common thing on these cars. And if you buy a used Peugeot 308, well, there's about 200 or so, and native springs are still there. Just accept that. It's possible that it is you who will have to replace them. This is not bad nor good, this is just life. So in terms of springs, there are 3 options, although in fact there is none, because the price tag is worth it. But there's no delivery to the Republic of Belarus, at least at the moment. What to do? I won't repeat myself. Watch this video. There's an answer to your question, even with a link, in my opinion, or as a used option. If something fits from the C4 Grand Picasso, possibly the C4 Picasso, but you need to clarify. Who knows for sure? Write in the comments. We continue further with the front suspension. The Sache strut is 225 rubles or $79. Kayaba is 269, $95. Bilstein is 430, $150. Magneti Morelli is 147 rubles, is $51. 262 rubles is $92. Manro and Meili are 360 rubles, $126, respectively. Well, somehow like this, from $51 to $150 each. And let's close the topic of suspension. And what will we close it with? That's right, the front hub bearing, since it is changed separately and not assembled. This is probably the end of the pluses because you won't like the prices. Okay, I won't escalate. The original is 250 rubles, $88. The SNR is 216 rubles, $76. The cartridge is 147 rubles, $52. The cartridge is 88 rubles. Here we already need to clarify such a difference, perhaps in one case a pair, and in the second one piece I do not know. Stelox 49, this is $17, NK 95, $34, Linux Avto 174 rubles, $61, Nakayamo 78, yes, this is $28, SNR 120 rubles, $42, and Daika 150 Belarusian rubles, this is $52. Not very cheap, but as it is, from $17 for Stelox to $88 for the original. We seem to have sorted it out with the suspension. Let's move under the hood, where the maintenance of a freshly bought used car begins. That's right, with the replacement of the timing belt, but preferably, of course, together with the pump. Let's start with a 1.6 engine for 120 horses. So, The original timing gear with pump, the set for 1,111 Belarusian rubles, that's $390. Meanwhile, Gates costs 536 rubles, that's $188, Ina 474 rubles, $166, and Dayk 450, $157. And these, by the way, are good substitutes, if anything. In the full set includes a belt, 2 pulleys, a pump, a gasket. Seems like a bolt. If you didn't like the price tag, and if you want to save a little, then you need to look for all these parts not in a set, but separately. For example, a separate pump, belt, and pulleys separately. So, a separate original pump costs 171 rubles. That's $60. AirTex pump 79 rubles, $28. LPR $117, 100 rubles. That's $35. Ina 175 rubles, $60. Happel 160 rubles, that's $56. Daika 109 rubles, that's $38. And a cartridge 78 rubles, that's about $28 total. Separate pump from $28 to $61, and even more. Options like a dike for $38 show themselves quite well. In fact, if you are separately look for roller skates and a belt, then they will cost Euro repair 220 rubles. Gates 270 is $95 Ina, 305 rubles. $107 Deke, 255 rubles. $90 Bosch, 300 rubles or $105. Oil filter, Euro repair, 29 rubles. This is $10. Filter on, 10 rubles, only $4. Man and Mali for 23 rubles. If anything, in the original box there is, as a rule, male. But this is for information. Kolben Schmidt, Bosch. All this is about the same price, 23 rubles. If it is expensive for you, yes, please take Stellax, only 6 rubles, $2, but I would not advise. Then the fuel filter, the original costs 70 rubles, $25. And if anything, then most likely there is Perflux, Man and Perflux also about at the same price, but just super cheap. This is Stellax for 12 rubles, $4, but I think it will cost your engine more. If anything, this is Perflux, it's the original. Meanwhile, this filter design with a plastic frame and an additional mesh also fits. Everything works perfectly, so it's up to you to decide. Personally, my opinion is that the best option is the original, specifically Perflux for $25. I'm buying the third one, probably. The fourth seems to be lying on the shelf. The flight is excellent, everything is fine with it. The air filter, also the assortment is huge. Prices start from 30 rubles per Euro repair. Although again, I don't know what's inside. The original is 57 rubles, that's $20. Perflux is 48 rubles or $17. Man, 62 rubles, $22. Necht, 53 rubles or $19. In total, the cheapest is Filtron, $7. The most expensive about $22. This will be the Man filter. For dessert, of course, I left the 1.5 HDI engine. Let's see what is there in filters. The engine is fresh, new, modern. Probably not everything there is so simple and bright. So the timing kit assembled with the pump is about the same price as for the 1.6 engine and even a little cheaper. Gates and Dayco are about the same price, $150. If you look separately for the belt, rollers and pump, then the range of prices I think will be the same as for the 1.6 engine. The only thing is that there will be fewer options, but not critical. Important point, there's a problem with the camshaft chain in 1.5 HDDI engines. It can stretch and then jump, leading to serious problems. This usually happens around 100,000 kilometers, but some think it can happen closer to 150,000 to 180,000 kilometers. It's unclear who is right. There aren't any clear signs of chain stretching, so it's highly recommended to change the timing belt. You have to replace the chain and its tensioner too. But there's a problem. It's not available in our country. You can't order it or find it in stores. But there's no need to panic. There are multiple ways to purchase it. With more and more of these engines in the country, many websites are importing brand new ones from abroad. The current price is 115 Belarusian rubles per set, which is about $40 US. The set includes a tensioner chain. I'm not certain about the cost of the replacement work, but I think it's relatively cheap. I could be wrong. Who knows for sure? Write in the comments. In the end, is this camshaft chain really that scary? I don't think so. Moreover, you need to understand that you will no longer find the good old 1.6 HDDI on Peugeot. Well, I mean on the new ones. All new cars come with a 1.5 engine. You just need to accept this as a given. And therefore, when buying such an engine, change the chain regularly. Moreover, if I'm not mistaken, the replacement is required as often as it is for the timing mechanism. Correct me if I'm wrong. As for the filters, oil and air, fuel, the price range is about the same as for 1.6 engines, only with the difference that for 1.6 HDI engines there are a lot of options, but for the 1.5 engine, for instance, there are only 3 options: original, Man, Perflux, with a price tag of about 27 rubles. Well, it's a bit pricier, but we'll consider it the same. If you dig a bit deeper, of course, you can find various options with similar numbers. But here, you need to check the dimensions and see if they fit. It's almost certain to be air. There aren't many options, only 3, the original, Perflux and Filteron. Prices range from 31 to 162 rubles, but 162 rubles or $56 is not really serious. So it's not that much. Regarding the fuel filter, again, there's a bit of nuance. It's either the original or a Filteron with a similar price, $32. If you search on websites where people import from overseas, there's a Perflux, say, for 72 rubles, which is $25 already. More interesting in summary, let's summarize this whole video. First of all, are there any problems with spare parts in 2023, namely with consumables for the Peugeot 308 car in the body T9? And there are enough spare parts available, but less than before, but still enough. As for ordering, if you're looking for something cheaper and are prepared to wait, it generally takes about a week, maybe 9 days tops. There's no issue there. As for the suspension, those are springs that aren't available at the time the video was made. You simply can't order them, but I'm confident that there are other options available, though it's worth noting. As for the engine, the 1.6 has no issues whatsoever. There's a ton of replacements and a range in prices to suit anyone. There's no real problems. You've seen the prices yourself, so whether it's pricey or not really is up to what you can afford. As for the 1.5 engine, people are becoming more and more interested in it since the vehicle fleet is getting younger. More and more new cars are coming out with this type of engine, so there are a lot of them. But with their filters, it's not exactly a problem. Let's say there's a slight uncertainty. I'd personally buy 2 filters at once, just in case. This is not a recommendation, just thinking aloud. Plus, I personally change all the filters once a year, regardless of mileage, except for the oil filter. Someone might change it according to regulations and buy it, say, 2 years in advance, which I don't think is a great move. No recommendations, just thinking aloud. And about the camshaft chain in the Cont, is the 1.5 engine a bad one? There is currently no negativity about this engine other than this chain tensioner. So I personally conclude that there is also no crime with it. Yes, it's a bummer that you now need to fork out an additional $40 to $45 plus labor just to replace the timing belt, but well, there's really nothing you can do about it. Just replace it and drive on without a worry. Let's just say, it's certainly not worth avoiding this engine over such a minor thing. Plenty of owners already have miles between 150 to 2,000 on their 1.5 engines and they're all just fine. Many owners have covered 150 to 2,000 kilometers on 1.5 engines and everything's good with them. If you enjoyed this format of video, let us know. Perhaps you have specific requests or suggestions. Also, share what you'd like to see on the channel moving forward. And that's all I have for today. Thanks to everyone for watching. Goodbye all.